Hello, everybody. This is a bit of a different type of video than what I typically put on the channel. Now, I usually like to talk about superheroes and whatnot because that's my bread and butter, that's my thing. I am also within a sphere of individuals and creators who like to talk about things going on in the pop culture world, whether it is whatever shenanigans a corporation is planning to do with an IP, a particular writer or director to a comic is like making choices with a character, that kind of thing, and more or less just trying to talk about how these companies are trying to, you know, put one over on us. They're trying to finagle their way with our escapism hobbies, like, and also talk about how people are trying to mess with our hobbies and inflict real world stuff into it, despite the fact that we are at these particular hobbies and properties because we want to forget about the troubles of the real world. There is no shortage of people out there who are willing to go out there, make some channels, and talk about this kind of thing. Some of them have done exceedingly well. Some of them I feel are a bit underrated. Some are still trying to find their way. And of course, there's a few that just aren't there. But that's neither here or there, nor my place to judge. You know? I would say that is something we've all done. We've all done that. A lot of us have done this solely because we wanted to air out our frustrations, to air out our problems about this because we felt that we were alone. It's like, are we crazy? Like, it can't just be us who are thinking this. And then we come to find out it's not us who are thinking of this. It's like there are other people who are recognizing the patterns, who are recognizing the shenanigans, and we're calling out said shenanigans. And that is all good, you know. However, I have noticed that with recent events, recently, about a week and a half ago, at the time of this recording, the unfortunate event of Charlie Kirk's assassination occurred. That was a very terrible event. For those unaware, Charlie Kirk was a individual who did a lot of debates at colleges. He was considered like conservative, and that's was what he did. That was the stuff he talked about. He did that for many and many years. And someone killed him at one of these debates, and that was a terrible event that occurred. Uh, when this happened, I saw many of people within the spheres because it hurt a lot of people because they were probably one or two people removed away from knowing this guy. You know, I wasn't aware of him because I keep my head to the ground mostly for my own stuff. And when everyone started talking about it and like it became like the topic of the town, I elected to not be a part of it. I told people whose shows I would be on for panels that I would not be involved because I knew that would be the topic and I just didn't want to do it because I had a rule in place, a limitation that I would never dive hardcore into full politics. It's one thing to talk about like whatever goofy ideology bullshit something's gonna do in a Batman or a Spider-Man book or whatever, that kind of stuff. But when you're going straight into the main source of politics and all that discourse, it's just not very good. And I noticed a lot of people had just, they were fed up and they were angry and frustrated, and it's not like they didn't have a reason to, but it made me start to notice something that, like, going into this sort of sphere, you need to find a balance, you know? That some people have sort of lost their ways a little bit, you know? Looking, when you spend so long looking at this kind of stuff, you know, even if you're just being more laid back, I guess, yeah, I would say if I describe myself, is, you know, you're going to talk about whatever stupid, goopy stuff is going to happen with this show, and because they got this creator who is a terrible person, who's got, like, horrendous viewpoints of this character, blah, 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 that kind of thing. You know, after this, I started just noticing how people were just way too. They were focusing so much on this, and there was no room to even, like, have that time to, like, escape. Because we're also focused on the bad. We're also focused on, like, calling out the bad. And it's not like that's a terrible thing inherently, but I think we need to strike up a balance. We need to have moments where we focus on something. The escapism. We started these channels to talk about these kind of things, to, you know, to issue our ire with companies that are messing with our forms of escapism. And in that realm, some of us have kind of started to lose track of it, and that kind of stuff eats at you, you know, when you're just staring at this abyss for so long, it wears you down, and then you're just left a husk, you know, and you become depressed, you become black-pilled, you become a doomer, you know, you don't like anything anymore, and it's like, I never want that. I never want that feeling, you know? I've seen what that does to people, and I've seen people who used to be big fans of a property, like, get turned so bad because of recent stuff that occurred within that property that they despise the full thing outright. Like, not even just the bad stuff that caused it, but the good stuff that even got them in the first place. And I never want to have that kind of feeling, you know? It's one thing to become apathetic to it, but it's another thing when you get turned into someone that despises the very thing in of itself, you know? Or you become someone that just doesn't think anything is going to change because everything sucks. That you think, well, what's the point of anything, you know? So when all this kind of occurred with Charlie Kirk's death, I started to just do more game streams. And, like, all I did was just took a couple hours out of a few days and just started streaming games. You know, I streamed some Transformers Devastation. I'm now doing some streams on Web of Shadows, you know? Like, games that I really like or have been wanting to play for the longest time, and just forget the world, forget what's happening outside, just focus on the game and have a good time. Escape. And that's what I think a lot of creators, a lot of people out there need to do. They need to carve out some time. They need to carve out some time from their regular workload and just do something that's fun for them. Could be maybe you want to watch a movie that you really like, or a show, or read a book, or do something about a game. You know, something like that. You know, I'm not saying to stop talking about the things, you know, that is going on or focusing on it if you're very passionate about that. Oh, no. But I think there's a balance that must be struck. You need to have some escapism. Otherwise, you become drained. You become a husk of your former self. And at a certain point, say when all this is said and done, when things go back to something that's more recognizable, something more enjoyable, what is left of you, the individual? Like, what is left when, say, if they finally fix stuff with, I don't know, Spider-Man or whatnot, what is left of you? Like, to me, I want to at least say when that day comes, when everything gets fixed up, that I'm still in a position to where I can say I am happy to be a Spider-Man fan. I am happy to go here and feel like it was worth it. I can still enjoy the fruits of the labor that I've done, that kind of thing. So this is just more of a message to all sorts of creators out there that dive into this abyss of stuff, whether you're talking about whatever goopy shit Disney Star Wars is doing, whatever crap James Gunn is doing with DC, or whatever stupid Twitter people are trying to do with an anime or a game or whatever, like, I'm not saying to stop talking about that or stop focusing on that if that is a passion and that's something you're good at. No, I'm saying you need to carve out a dedicated time for just pure escapism. Don't focus on like a couple hours out of a week, one day, just where you just do something fun. You just focus on what you want to do. You want to play a game that you really like to play? Don't matter if it's new, old, whatever, just play it. You want to watch a movie and that you really like or talk about it? Go right ahead. Comic, game, whatever, do it. Like, carve out that time to do something you want to do and just shut out everything. Don't talk about the real world for that moment. Don't bother going on articles or whatnot. Just go, we're going to escape for a couple hours and just do our thing. And that's it. Just do that. A little bit of that every now and again, like every so often within a week, just a couple hours out of a week. There you go. Just one whole day at the very least. Just do that. And that's all it is, man. Because that is what I think people need to start doing, because it's a slippery slope, this kind of business, that it could really fuck with your head if you don't do something to balance it out, to at least give you some form of escapism, to like give you some joy in your life to have, like, and to those that maybe say, oh, well, I have nothing, it's like, no, that's not true. You can always find something. You can dig, you can go through it, you can find something that you enjoy to do, alright, and just do it. Because the alternative is to be sad, depressed, burnt out, and despising the very thing you once loved. And that is just not something you want to be. Not somewhere you want to be. So with that said, everybody, I'll just leave it at that. Hopefully you all understand that balance is needed. I'm not saying to stop doing what you're doing, but I'm just saying take a little bit of time out of that schedule and just dedicate it to something you like, to something you enjoy. It's better off that way.